What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Double Coverage, the premier NFL podcast of the Gin Sports Network. My name is John J. II. I'm here alongside our NFL insider expert extraordinaire, Robert Rachow. Robert, how you doing, buddy?
Good, man. How about yourself?
Doing good, man. You know, People have said before that I'm not a big NFL guy. I would say that they're wrong in this regard because I am an NFL guy, and I've had my criticisms in the past about specific rules that have been rules for a long time. And mostly more than that, it's been the rules, the fly by night rules that have seemed to change the game that I loved, uh, and maybe not for the better. So I get criticisms in that regard. I'll also in the Lions front too. We'll face some controversy, but we're not here to talk about that tonight. We're here to talk about the NFL season 2025-26 seasons coming up. I guess what are you looking for? Just from a standby view right now. No real prospective things. You got some draft stuff. You got some fantasy stuff on the horizon. Still got a month or a little over a month and a half now before we're going to see our first preseason games. How are you feeling right now? What are you looking for, and what's your outlook going into this season?
Yeah, now's the time of year that every team's the best team ever, right? I mean, they just had an off season of free agency, the draft. Did they bring back their core players? Um, so going into this season, they're kind of looking at what teams are going to emerge. There's always the couple emerging teams that maybe they didn't make the playoffs last year, or they made it to the wild card round. Are they going to make it a little farther? And the teams that are going to fall off, are the Bills or the Chiefs or one of those really good teams that are perennial, deep count for the playoff run. Are one of those guys going to fall off a little bit this year? And you just never know. So that's the fun part about the NFL. There's usually a couple dominant teams, but seeing who those teams that are going to come out of the fold and be another long term winning franchise. Obviously, being hometown Lions, like we get to see that the Lions are that team for the last couple of years that were in purgatory for decades, and all of a sudden now they're a perennially good team. So, are the Commanders going to be that team? Is it going to be the Bears now? Like, who's going to be the next team that's going to step it up and be a perennial winner? So that's what I look forward to most. And as far as from a betting standpoint, not something I'd want to bet on because it's so hard to predict. Injuries, rookies, there's the new coaches, new staff, ownership, even in some cases. So there's a lot of variability to it, and that's really what makes the NFL fun each season.
Yeah, it really does, and it's just one of those things where, uh, and I'm a college football guy, Robert. At heart, I'm a college football guy. So I look at things a little bit differently for NFL. I take everything with a grain of salt, uh, especially with the NFL and how NIL has really kind of infiltrated college football as it has. And NIL deals, you got schools paying money to gain recruits, 4 stars, 5 stars, or just getting bought out left and right by major schools, SEC schools primarily, but it's happening in the Big Ten too. So looking at things with a grain of salt, watching the games with a grain of salt, knowing the players are playing in an ever evolving game, and I think that's what hurts the most is what the game used to be. You know what the game used to be, and you see it change. You see the landscape change at the snap of a finger in the scratch of a pen, and it brings you down a little bit. But nevertheless, you still got football. You still got the gridiron. You still got Sunday night football. You got Monday night football. You got Thursday night football. You got football all the time. And obviously you're gonna do fantasy, and you got the betting aspect too. So you're always going to be a part of it, and me included. I'm always going to be a part of it. Always going to be invested, and I'm always going to be looking to see what's on the horizon to make the game better and to bring further attention to the game, because that's what's the most important thing. And obviously, looking at the Detroit Lions too, we'll just dive into them right away. So, what are you looking? You mentioned that they're a perennial team, and you've used that word kind of freely, I'd say. And there's teams that have became that household team for a long time. It was the Patriots. Then they fell out of that perennial phase of their tenure. Obviously, some big names left, and that was just how the cookie crumbled. And then you see teams like the Commanders and like the Lions and even the Bills. They found a resurgence to make themselves a perennial team, a team of success, a win. In college we call them a win now program. I guess what has helped the Lions become that household name where people are happy to put on Barry Sanders jerseys again? What has led to that, and how are they going to sustain that going into this season?
Yeah, it really just came down to a change in ownership. You know, like they were pretty complacent with poor coaching, poor GMs, and sticking with them for such a long time that when they finally handed it off to Sheila, that she was able to make the right hire, get the right GM in there, get the right coach. Um, and normally, like they'll go out and let the GM pick their coach. You know, they went out and picked their own coach, and then let the GM fall into place with that and come to terms with like, all right, we got to work together. So that's kind of a unique situation in itself. But then letting them do their job now. I mean, you look back at these past few drafts, and it's just they've just been knocking out of the park every year. They have starter after starter and guys that are getting devalued. Um, and the guy key on the list this year is that Isaac Tesla guy that no one even heard of. I never heard of the guy. I mean, he had like 600 yards for Arkansas. That's like, who's this guy? You know, and then they trade multiple draft picks to get him. And then come to find out, he's regarded as like one of the top testing wide receivers ever. Like since they've done the relative athletic score, RAS score, like he's one of the top 20 to ever do those. You know, come up with a score basically a 10. So as far as like athleticism, height, weight, speed, hands, everything you need to play the position, he's one of the top people to ever test. Um, so that's an example of him trying to find like hidden gems, and he's done it every draft. You know, you look at Brian Branch, slips out of the first round, becomes Pro Bowl starter for the Lions. Kirby Joseph, you know, he wasn't like touted as this top 10, top 20 pick, but if you go and redraft, he's going to be going in the top 20. He leads the league in interceptions almost every year now. So that's really what it comes down to. And then obviously from like a coaching standpoint, Dan Campbell's just a man. Like he knows how to motivate the guys. He knows how to keep the spirits up, and they play for him. You know, like he in the past, like you look at Matt Patricia, that whole team quit on Matt because like he had villainized everyone in the locker room. He was calling out the best players, saying they need to step up and that they're the problem, like Darius Slay, Quandre Diggs, um, basically caused an exodus of good players from the Lions and really created a situation where free agents didn't want to come here for a while. And that's tough. Like you're already a bad franchise. Now free agents don't want to come there. And your whole scheme in general was just terrible. I mean, you go back and they get Goff, and it almost seemed like, well, he's kind of like this consolation prize to a big trade to get draft capital. And he becomes like the linchpin of this whole offense and being able to accurately deliver the football to all these playmaking guys on offense. So it's really a combination of everything that they did in those first couple of years that have now paid dividends on the back end. The only question mark now with Brad Holmes and Campbell and the gang is can they get over the hump? You know, can they become not like you remember like the Chargers when they were really good with like Philip Rivers and you know TLT and all them guys. Like they would get to the playoffs every year and then not win anything. And it was
Hmm.
so disappointing. They were like one of the most disappointing teams of all time, in my opinion, because it's like they had so many Hall of Fame guys and they just couldn't win. And I don't want to be that team. You even look back at like the Packers, right? I mean, they had Aaron Rodgers, all these Hall of Fame guys, but they won a Super Bowl. I'll take one Super Bowl out of however many years he played with the Packers versus just being good like the Steelers are every year. I mean, the Steelers are routinely 500 plus, but they haven't won anything in a while now. So they're like trying to make that comparison to like a team that's good but not great. Um, but they got the Super Bowls to show for it. The Lions do not. So really, that's kind of the uncharted territory now for the Lions. Can they get to a Super Bowl, and then can they compete in one? And right now, it's still an unknown. But the teams they've played against in the playoffs have played really good, and they got dusted by the Commanders. So looking at that, it's like hard to say, all right, we're going to make this huge jump. But then again, like we only really had the 1 year of playoff success with this current team and regime where they won a couple playoff games and got their feet wet. So now it's like, all right, back to the grindstone. Let's know what worked, let's know what didn't, and let's get back here and do this again. So I think that's
Well,
kind of the mindset coming in.
well, you know who I'm going to throw in that same category is my Buffalo Bills, the team that can't get over the hump to save their life.
Yep.
And you rally behind your leader, Josh Allen, which you have everybody, and you've lost some guys, and you've got some guys, and things like that. You kind of play that game of who can we put here, and how can they be an asset to the team. And they just haven't been able to get over that hump, and they've been beating themselves in a lot of ways. And I compare the Bills to the Lions, and people are saying this is the Super Bowl we want. I mean, that'd be the Super Bowl that everyone deserves to see, because they're those teams that just they're so close. They're pumping up the hill. They're just jogging and running and digging, but they just can't get up the hill and over that tippy top and crest it and get over that hump. So I really see a lot of similarities between the Lions and the Bills, but it's all a puzzle piece game, and it takes a little bit of luck too,
Yep.
and you know that. But I witnessed the Lions defeat themselves in a lot of ways, kind of similar to the Bills, as I alluded to just a second ago. And it came down to, and we can go back to a past episode and reflect, and how they, I would say, avoided or didn't acknowledge some of their shortcomings. You mentioned some earlier in the pre-show. What were some of the shortcomings that the Lions have to fix, regardless of who's in the position that to do the job? Which of these issues do they have to fix and make sure they fix if they want to get over the hump this year?
Yeah, I mean, one glaring issue that they didn't really address other than a late round draft pick was edge rusher. So as a fan, I mean, I'm concerned with their ability to get pressure on the quarterback. And you go back to the last few people, the last several teams, really. I mean, go throughout history and find a team that wasn't able to rush the passer or win a Super Bowl. It's pretty hard to find unless you're talking about, some of the most prolific offenses ever in history, which the Lions are up there with that side of things. But you're kind of rolling the dice with that, right? I mean, you can't outscore somebody every single week. It's just too hard to do. And even going back to the Patriots when they had that historic offense and then lose in the Super Bowl, um, you just never know. Like, so with the Lions, if they really would have went out and addressed an edge rush position, whether they could have gotten one of the premier guys via trade, or went out and traded back up into the early rounds, maybe not spend the draft capital on that receiver and tried to get a early to mid round edge rusher. That would have made me feel a little better. But at the same time, their entire defense was injured come playoff time anyway last year, so it's really hard to gauge off of that alone. They were getting pretty good pressure schematically with people outside of Hutchinson when he was in the game because he has that impact, right? You got to now double team him. You're going to free up somebody else. They were getting more sacks from other positions. So having those people back is going to be huge. Um, they did a good job in free agency. I felt like they lost a couple guys, but they retained and acquired enough to keep kind of even as far as free agency goes. And then obviously they're going to try to retain all of the players that they've done a really good job drafting. But like long term, and this season in particular, not having that really good pass rusher opposite of Hutchinson is tough to swallow when we watch game and game and game of them just not being able to get any sacks at all. Like there's several weeks where it was like, oh cool, we got one sack today. And people say, well, sacks are overrated, and they kind of are, but it's an end of a drive usually. Like if you can get a sack in second, third down, now you're playing from behind. Now the drive's over and you got a punt. So it is a big deal. And all the good teams seem to be able to do it really well. You watch the Eagles beat up on the Chiefs. Um, Same with how Tampa Bay won against the Chiefs, really. I mean, Tampa Bay got after Patrick Mahomes. So, and then the Lions lost Ragnow. I mean, I don't want to recap like everything we've talked about before, but like they lost Ragnow, which is a big deal, but they did draft his replacement. So I felt like the team didn't get better in a sense. Like they kind of stayed even, which is really good. I mean, you're a 15-2 team that didn't get worse on paper, but at the same time, if you're trying to win the whole thing, that's something that a good team would have done. I mean, you look at the Bills, at least they went out and tried to do things, right? They signed Von Miller to a huge contract in his later years of his career. That didn't work out. They went and traded for receivers like Stephon Diggs. Um, they've made big trades and big moves to try to help Josh Allen. Um, in the last couple years, I don't think they've done enough, obviously, but um, trying to compare those two, it's like the Lions are always hesitant to do what they've done well, which is just continue to draft. So we're gonna see if that's gonna be a long-term solution or not. I mean, if they just continue to stick to their guns and not go out and get a known proven player to go opposite of Hutchinson and help this, defense out, we'll see. But without all those injuries, it could be a completely different team this year, um, as a whole. I mean, the defense early on was winning them games. So like the offense came out kind of sluggish, and the defense was holding people and winning games, getting game sealing interceptions, getting that game sealing sack. So it's gonna be good to see them all healthy again, but I wish they were a little more like the Bills in the sense of going out and trying to get somebody via trade or free agency that would make a bigger impact now. Because I don't care about 20 years from now when we have a good enough team that if they add 1 or 2 pieces are now insta Super Bowl lock. If we could get somebody even remotely close to Hutchinson's caliber across from him, that's just game changing, game breaking defense now to where we can drop the linebackers into coverage and get some more picks instead of sending them on blitzes every other play. And, the cornerbacks don't have to always be in man coverage now. Maybe they can get some help from the safety instead of always sending blitzes every. I mean, they were one of the top blitzing teams towards the end of the year just because of injury. Um, so that's kind of where I'm at with the Lions. I hope that even though they didn't address the situation in the way the fans want them to, I hope that, their track record equals the success they're gonna have moving forward because it's hard to knock what he's done for the team so far. So as long as we still believe in Brad Holmes, it's hard to argue against him now at this point.
Well, in Brad Holmes, Lions fans trust because they're going to have to really depend on him. And I don't want to say that he steered him wrong. You know what I mean? So you're always going to deal with things that are, just like every season going into it. We mentioned it a second ago. The uncertainties, you don't know what's around that corner. You don't know who's going to get injured. Things of that nature. So, but you got me onto the edge rushing situation. I got to see them. They got to succeed at a different level at the edge rushing position, especially with Hutchinson back.
Yep.
But yeah, like you said, to go out and get those big named guys, that's got to be something that Brad Holmes is thinking about because I think he's almost being a little bit too conservative. He wants to make those household names in Detroit, which I respect that too. And you're going to find a lot of great players. Your Anzalonis, your Kirby Josephs, even Megatron. Those guys, Matt Stafford. Even these guys made themselves a household name in Detroit. So that's something that I think Brad Holmes might be trying to do a little bit, but go in and get that guy that's already established. And you've had guys come down the pike that have been looking for a location that, like OBJ is one that stands out. Um, and maybe he wouldn't have been a good fit in Detroit. And I'm sure it was deliberated on. But getting somebody like that in you know, that same echelon. I think that's something that they could explore, especially if they have major glaring, gaping holes in any part of the offense or defense. They're going to have to try something out, especially because they can't put themselves in a position defensively like they did last season. That's
Yeah,
almost
and Brad.
unacceptable.
Yeah, Brad Holmes made a good point though. We took a D tackle in the first round, so he's like, it doesn't always have to be from the edge position to get a pass rush, and with
No,
McNeil being out and then Reader, going down with injury, so it's like obviously they had the injury problem yet again, but they weren't really getting a lot of pressure up the middle, which can really force the quarterback out of the pocket. And even if you have an average pass rusher on the outside, they're probably going to start getting some sacks if you have that presence up the middle. I mean, look at what Aaron Donald did for the Rams. I mean, that's obviously Exhibit A because he was one of the best to ever do it from a pass rushing D tackle perspective. But he was able to help out his young defense and get them to a Super Bowl win almost by himself. It was kind of amazing. Like he was causing so much havoc up the middle that his whole team was now just reaping the benefits of his work he was doing in the middle of the field. So I'm not saying the Lions got the next Aaron Donald, but obviously if you can get anywhere near close to that impact with a draft pick, it's going to have huge dividends. So and they're also putting a lot of eggs in the Marcus Davenport basket, who's like an unheard of guy because he's been injured for 5 years in a row now. And everyone keeps scratching their head at why are you holding on to this guy who was like I think he was a first or second round draft pick, maybe by the Vikings. Um, but anyway, it's been years now of him just jumping from team to team, not doing anything because he's been injured. So it's like they just rave about him though. They just every year they're like, yeah, we like our guys. Davenport's been doing great. Um, we got our sixth round pass rusher out of Egypt or whatever now, and I'm like, I just don't know if that's enough, guys. You got the guy that never plays, is a late round draft pick, and you really haven't. I mean, you're basically the same team you were last year, but healthy. So, and a couple of the players aren't going to be back at the beginning of the year. Like they think McNeil's not going to be back till after Thanksgiving. So there's things like that to consider. And when you look at their spread, like Vegas has their spread at 10.5. And that's probably pretty accurate, man. Like it's hard to look at their schedule and say, okay, yeah, they got 14, 15 wins there. It's like, okay, yeah, maybe 11, 12, and then anything after that is like gravy train, basically, because their schedule is so hard. And when you look at teams like the Bears, who got better, the Vikings arguably get better. The Packers, they get Jacobs in another year. So um, it's hard to look at that division and say, okay, yeah, they're going to have the same season they were last year. There's just no way that's going to happen. And Vegas is agreeing. I mean, they're picking them 4 wins less than where they were last year, similar to they did with Washington, who's 3 or 4 wins under where they were last year on the spread. So um, I think they're going to regress. I still think they're going to make the playoffs. It might be as a wild card, even the Lions. So we got to be prepared for that. That they might have to win that extra game to get to the playoff or get to the Super Bowl. But um, yeah, I think there's going to be a regression, man. I don't think there's any way around it with their schedule being easily one of the hardest in the league.
Well, yeah, especially looking at the surprises and the close games that were converted to wins for Detroit last year. It's hard to assume that with a arguably tougher season than last year, or tougher season coming into this year than last year. It's tough to assume that they're going to get those same breaks that they got. Maybe they will. Maybe they will.
I hope
Maybe
so.
they'll win those games, and I'd say they won majority of their 50-50 games last year, if not all of them. Damn near all of them. He had a couple scuffs on the record there, but really a hell of a season. But yeah, like you mentioned, you almost got to expect a little bit of regression to get better,
Yeah,
to find that extra level of team cohesion and chemistry. So we'll see how they handle it. And I'm sure I'll be talking to you more about the Lions and their outlook as we get closer to the preseason. But the NFC North is looking fierce, man. I mean,
it's
that's a
that's
scary
got to be the
division.
top division as far as record wise next year in football. I think because they got the Bears at I think 8.5 on their spread, and the Vikings are going to be over 10. The Packers are probably going to be over 10. So if you have every team in your division over 500, you're automatically one of the best divisions in football. So, yeah, it's kind of scary. I mean, you look at last year, the Lions had to come down to the wire with the Vikings at the end of the year, and that had huge implications. Like, I mean, they could have slid way down on the seeding. And, looking back, would that have helped them or not? I guess I don't know. Washington might have just been their arch nemesis that year. Um, But yeah, it's gonna be a tough division, and they're all picking it that way too. There's a lot of analysts saying that's gonna be the hardest division in football.
Absolutely, I agree with them. Without getting too much into we don't want to talk too much about the Lions. I know I'm sure a lot of people love hearing about it, but we'll give it a rest for now. Let's talk about 2025 fantasy picks. It's around the corner, guys. I know it's back. It's here again. This is one of those things that always sucks me in to being an NFL fan, no matter how much shit I talk about the NFL. But fantasy picks, obviously, we had the draft back in April. Um, how much are new guys, and I guess historically, how much have new guys, rookies, how much have they made a splash? And yes, it's a case by case
Mhm.
basis. But have rookies shown to be everything they were expected to be, or have majority of them flopped historically? Let's say looking back in the last 5 years, what would you say about rookies
I think
specifically?
that, rookie receivers are becoming a lot more prominent, just as far as their statistical output, because obviously you become more of a passing league. The rule changes over the years, like, it's easier now for a rookie receiver to come in, and they don't have a cornerback just mugging them at the line of scrimmage all game anymore as much, um, because of the rule changes, so I think that's a little easier. You look at, like, a guy like, Neighbors, out of, Giants. He comes
Yep.
in and gets, what, 1,300 yards his rookie year? So, you see that kind of example, and then you also see, that on the running back side, depending on how that offense is gonna be reliant on the running back. So, you kinda gotta look if it's a running back, you gotta see if it's gonna be a committee, because if it's a committee, it's a coin flip as it is. Like, even with the Lions, with their 2 really good running backs, there's games where Montgomery or Gibbs might not be nearly much as involved as they would the previous or next week. So, it's kind of a coin flip when you have that committee system. Obviously, the Lions is an extreme example because both of them do so well, but, they have Ashton Genty in the top. They have a number 11 in the top 50 on ESPN right now for overall, for PPR. So, I found that surprising. Obviously, he did so well in college, historic, career in college, but to see a rookie running back, all the way up in, the top 15 is pretty surprising. I don't think I would draft him that high just being a rookie, like maybe a later second round or something, but I'm more for like if I'm doing my fantasy draft, I'm more trying to find the proven guys because if you're going to spend an early round draft pick on somebody that's never even touched the field, you're taking a huge inherent risk on its own. So, like they have, this is ESPN's top 50. They have Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson up there. Obviously, the common names: Barkley, Gibbs, CeeDee Lamb, Puka Nacua. The one that's like always a question mark, and it becomes a bigger question mark every year is Christian McCaffrey. Like
Hmm.
they still have him top 10, and it's like, does everyone have short term memory where he was like out for 2 years? I mean, I took him like first overall, and I never even got a single point out of him a couple years ago. So he's not getting any younger. So that's the other thing of
And I
that.
don't
Like,
have the heart. I don't have the heart to draft Christian McCaffrey because
yeah,
he's so injury prone. When he's on, he is on. I will give him that. But it's so spotty to get
yep.
him to even play through an entire game. It's like that's too much risk for me to take, especially at my RB1 position. I can't do it.
And you look at how their offense is designed, and you know their receiver status now. That's kind of questionable. Like, who's they gonna be throwing the ball to? Like, he might be a bigger driving factor of their offense now, which is gonna sure maybe increase his point potential, but also increase his injury risk. So you kind of look at a guy like that, and I would be on the side of caution there. Like if I got a top 3 draft pick, I'm not taking him. I can tell you that. I'll take either a younger guy or like a known proven receiver. I play PPR, which a lot of people do. I mean, so it's more receiver based anyway. Um, but those receiving backs end up being like the top producers in PPR just because they're getting the ball multiple ways. So
Yeah,
it's tough.
PPR is the best way to do it, especially with, like you said, a very, uh, you know, adaptable running back that can almost be a glorified slot receiver on a lot of plays. Um, yeah, I mean those are gold mines essentially. If you can get a guy that can take some hits, that can be rough and tough and make some catches here and there, even those forward flipping jets. That's a pass, folks. So you're getting a point for that, just for reception, and then however many yards he gets off of that.
Here's a couple
So
interesting like rankings they have. So this is all coming from Mike Clay off of ESPN. So he's got Bo Nix at number 8 on his quarterback list. Like that surprises me. I know he had a good year. But top 10, like, okay. I mean, they got Goff all the way down at 17 when he was, obviously having a great year. So they're expecting some regression there. You look at running backs, sure, they got McCaffrey at 4, but they still have, um, some guys that are getting up in age. Like, are we going to take another chance on Josh Jacobs, the Derrick Henrys? They're kind of anomalies, really. You look at a guy like Derrick Henry to be getting that many yards at his age in a ground pound offense with how many carries he's had in his career. It's almost like you don't even look at the carries of Derrick Henry. He's just this anomaly unicorn of a player that you
Yeah.
just gotta say, all right, well, it's Derrick Henry. He's on the board. I'm taking him. You know,
He
and
is a unicorn,
oh
really. I
yeah,
mean, he's just a battering ram too, and you can hit the shit out of this guy, and he just takes him. And a lot
it's
of
a freight
running
train.
backs are like that. Even Monty and Gibbs are both like that too, and they're far smaller in size than
Yeah,
Derrick Henry is. I mean, that definitely makes it easier to be the hammer, not the nail, when you have some size on your side. You almost have that fullback, power back build. I think that's what's allowed him to succeed and
yeah,
excel so much and have security too, as he's probably not going to get injured, but he's going to take a hell of a lot of hits. And if you're running a goal line situation, up the gut midline play, you're probably going to get through the line and through the goal line with Derrick Henry on your team. So,
yeah. Old school
yeah.
smash mouth football. I mean, he's the running back you dream about having on your team.
Yeah,
Like
it's a dying art though. That's something that it's not going to be around much longer. It's a different style. You'll see them in flashes, but how commonplace they are it's going away. So it's becoming more of a finesse game. Get through the gap. It doesn't mean you're gonna get hit any less. It's just the build of the power hammer backs. That's not really the style of play anymore. So,
yeah,
but
overall, just
I love it though.
wrapping up like the fantasy side of things. This is like one of the most interesting years that we've had in a long time, as far as like aging veterans versus up and coming guys versus rookies. Like, there's a really big disparity of how you're going to draft your team this year. You go back in time, it's like, okay, I'm going to take one of the 10 well established quarterbacks that's going to get me 30 points a game, and I'm going to take one of the dozens of Hall of Fame receivers, the Calvin Johnsons, the Larry Fitzgeralds, those kinds of guys. Now it's like, okay, it seems like you're going to be taking a chance at some point of your fantasy draft, whether it's early or late. Whether you're taking that old veteran, seeing if he's got a little bit left in the tank, or you're rolling the dice on a rookie early. Um, you just never know now. Like, this season's going to be really interesting, and there's going to always be those couple guys out of the rookie draft class that's going to put up some points. So figuring out who that's going to be and how they get integrated, like even with the Lions, is this Tesla guy going to get 7 touchdowns and 600 yards and be that like filler guy for your depth on your roster? He could be, or he could be doing nothing. He could just be watching from the sideline all season. So you're taking that risk, right? I mean,
You have to. I mean, yeah, you're taking that risk, and I've been on the wrong side of that risk more times than not. I
same.
have scored on it a couple times, and then you're building up stock in them. Even if you got to put them on your bench, that buys you some stock in a future trade you might make. You might see some up and comers that are really heating up before they really blow the top off, and you take a gamble on them with one of those good stock guys that you can basically give away at will. So taking the risks, taking the calculated gambles, it's part of fantasy. That's what makes fantasy so fun. And when you cash out per se on those gambles,
Yep.
that players that maybe didn't have a lot of stock early on, they didn't have a high rating
Yeah, the
early
sleepers.
on, they blow the top off, and they're a star-studded player. So it happens a lot.
That's what makes it fun, man.
Exactly. So I guess with all that being said, with that noise that's going on, all these different sources, resources, websites, stat sheets that you're looking at, how do you take that all in and put it in a blender and say, okay, this is what I'm going to take into account, and then this is my side of it, that it might not be shown on a top 100 list,
Yep.
on ESPN.com or anywhere. How do you
Yeah.
take that all and put it in a blender and make your best judgment, and bringing your own judgment into
Yeah.
the entirety of it? How do you do that?
Yeah, I kinda use their rankings as the baseline, and then I'll go and I'll look at who the players got drafted to, right? So how reliant is that team gonna be on this player for their offense? So that's why they got Genti rated so high, right? I mean, the Raiders have not a lot going for them right now. They got a good tight end, they got a good running back, bunch of question marks everywhere else. So, um, but then again, it's the Raiders. So I'll have to look at like, okay, what did they do with their offensive line? Did they even address that in the offseason? I don't know. I don't know anything about the Raiders other than their couple moves they made with Brady in the fold now. Um, so I look at who they got on their roster, how they're going to utilize that player in their offense, and the most important thing for me is availability. Like if it's a guy that's going to get you 10, 15, 20 points a week every week because he's healthy and he's a consistent player, I'll take that guy over the guy that gets you 30, but then he's injured half the year. So the Christian McCaffreys, right? I mean, you look at guys like even Justin Jefferson or somebody like that. If they haven't been injured in a while, you're starting to roll the dice, right? I mean, if you look at every season, it's like okay, 16 games, 17 games, 17 games, 16 games. Now it's this year. It's like okay, well, are they really going to get another 17 games in at
Yeah,
30?
their time is coming. Their
Yeah,
clock is ticking.
it's coming.
Yeah,
So I
especially
use that.
C-Mac. I mean, the C-Mac's clock's already ticking right
Oh
now.
yeah,
So, I mean, you'd be lucky to make it through week 1.
honestly, I mean, it's like
It sounds like
you never know.
shitty to say that, but it's like, damn, this guy, and he's a hard-hitting guy too, but it's like
Yeah.
he's made of paper mache. He hits one thing wrong, and he's toast. He's out for, 3 to 5 weeks minimum.
Yeah, and even, like, in the seasons where he is playing, like, he gets dinged up a lot, like, he gets a bunch of minor injuries that maybe he's only out a week here and there or half a game or whatever, but it's enough to potentially ruin your entire fantasy season. So, I'd rather take somebody that's gonna get consistent amount of carries, like, and touches that stayed healthy, a younger guy, maybe like a Gibbs. I would take Gibbs over McCaffrey at this point of their career, even with the split backfield, just because I think that Gibbs is gonna be more available than McCaffrey's gonna be. So
Absolutely.
that's how I address it. Injuries is like number one because I've lost too many fantasy years to injury, like where I just my top player's gone, and now I got this 30-point hole that can't be filled with a bunch of scrubs off the bench.
Well, yeah, that's injuries is one of those things too. You can't really control it, but you can kind of see the warning signs based on past years where
Yeah,
it seems to become a pattern. So being on the lookout for that, it might create the availability for a guy like C-Mac. But I'd say even at an RB2 position, maybe as an extra, he wouldn't be a bad choice. But you want to lock down your RB1, RB2 before you're thinking about C-Mac. Because if you get him early and you try to put him in as RB1 or RB2, you're taking a lot of uncalculated risks too early on.
yeah. I'd take him
So
at RB2. I'd take him like late first, early second, but I'm not gonna be like spend a top 5, top 6 draft pick on him like a lot of people are projecting. Like they're still projecting him to go that high in a lot of mocks. So,
yeah,
um, he's kind of like that fringe RB2, now to me because of the injury factor. So we'll see, but he's got the upside of obviously being the best in the league. So there's gonna be the guys like, well, I'm just putting all my chips on CMC.
yeah, he does have the upside, and he has a very high ceiling, which some would argue hasn't been reached, at least not in total yards, and probably definitely not in total yards because he's been injured for most of his career,
Yeah.
season over season. So
Yeah, his best year, he had that 1,000 rushing, 1,000 receiving with the Panthers, and that's like eternity ago now.
yeah,
So,
it's
yeah,
crazy, man. Yeah, we'll be talking about fantasy more going into the end of July and into August. So stay tuned for more stuff on that. Let's talk about Aaron Rodgers real quick. Um, Obviously, playing for the Steelers, he's claiming that this is his last ride. Um, I guess, what do you think about Aaron Rodgers? Does he have anything left in the tank, or because the last 2 years have been more or less duds? Does he have anything left in the tank for this fifth victory lap, or should he just hang the cleats up?
is he gonna be better than the players that the Steelers have been throwing out at quarterback? if he can stay healthy, sure, but, like, I don't know, their offensive line, I don't know, like, is it good enough to keep a 45-year-old quarterback upright all game? I don't know, man, like, they had a bunch of mobile guys, even Russell Wilson in his older age is a little more mobile than Aaron Rodgers, and he was struggling. So, I don't know, man, it's got, like, the Jets feeling all over again, like, I feel like he's gonna be out within the first half of the year, and he's not coming back, and that's how he's gonna end his career, which sucks because he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, arguably one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback of all time, like, from a purely, just talent perspective, taking care of the football, not throwing interceptions. He's easily got one of the best touchdown to interception ratios ever, which says a lot, but also he only won the one Super Bowl. So, like, is that touchdown to interception ratio partly because he wasn't willing to make that, deep ball throw late in the game? I don't know. Like, maybe he's like protecting the stats over the years. It's hard to tell. I mean, obviously when you're talking about a guy that's won multiple MVPs, he's really good. But he's also old as shit. They're gonna walk him off the field in a wheelchair at some point. Like, I don't know what he's trying to prove. Why he thinks the Steelers are gonna be worth a shit with him on the team, I don't know. But he's got that Mike Tomlin factor. He likes Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin likes him. Like, they've had some antics over the years. It's a respectable organization like the Packers that's been around since the beginning, right? So, um, you look at all that, it makes sense of why he's there. But at his age and talent level currently, I don't think he's going to be more than average this year. Now, is that like 25 touchdowns and 13 picks or something like that? That's kind of where my head's at. Like, somewhere in the 20s, mid-teens for interceptions, 9-8 team, doesn't make the playoffs or they're out in the first round. Like, that's where my head's at. I don't think they're gonna be, like, if he plays the full year at least, like, if he's out in week 3 or 4, they're back to where they were the last couple years, so, um,
But that begs the question, why would the
yeah,
Steelers, other than Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers being in the sack together, essentially, um,
I don't know.
why would they take that kind of risk on a 40-year-old quarterback that seems to be at the end of his road?
Maybe they just accepted that this is kinda like a bridge year for them, but that it's like, at that point, why don't you just hard reset, get rid of everybody, and start over? Because at some point, like, you gotta do that as a franchise. Like, those teams that are like the Steelers that are around that 500 point every single year never do that, it seems like. They never just hit the hard reset, get rid of everybody, coaching staff, players, trade everybody away, start over with a bunch of capital, and rejuvenate. It's like, no, they wanna just maintain mediocrity forever now. Let's just let's just go, 8 and 9, 9 and 8, 8 and 9 every year and be the new Jeff Fisher of the NFL and just be average forever. Because that's what it feels like when you watch them. Like, who's watched the Steelers the last few years and be like, "Ooh, I'm so scared of that team. I do not wanna play the Steelers." Like, absolutely nobody.
Really, since Big Ben.
Yeah,
I haven't
and
been
once
scared
Big Ben
of
was
the Steelers since
gone,
Big
it's like,
Ben.
"Yep, they're done. They are cooked." And, they haven't replaced them. They have done a really poor job of trying to replace him too, like, um,
They're probably
now
trying
is
to get Big Ben out of retirement. I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Tomlin's placed a couple calls to him.
call up Joey Flacco, man. They shoulda got Flacco in there.
Exactly, dude. I mean, it's like you got these guys right here at your disposal. Or what do you think about Kaepernick? Because I
Oh
heard
god, don't get me going.
I've heard he's teased a comeback in the NFL at the ripe age of 36 or 38.
Well, the thing, I don't know if we
But
ever
what a
touched on
jokester,
that,
huh?
but that guy, like, no one ever talks about the fact that he went vegan or vegetarian, lost all his muscle mass, and then, like, he got tryouts for teams and then just sucked. Like, he sucked his last couple years. You go back and look at his stats, he was just so good for those couple years. Everyone remembers the Kaepernick that's rushing for the 90-yard touchdown. And they forget about the Kaepernick that's throwing 5 picks a game, fumbling, completing 10 passes for an entire 4 quarters. Like, they forget about that guy because the guy before him was so good, but, yeah, he just fell off, man. He fell off hard, and you look at his, like, there's a picture of him at Sports Illustrated cover where he's just jacked. He looks like the next, you know, prototype athlete that's gonna be the new thing. and then he get, like, changes his diet around, and I don't know, man, he just lost a substantial amount of muscle mass in those last couple years, played absolutely terrible, and he's not on a team for a reason, right? If teams thought he was actually good, he would be on a team. Because there's guys throughout history that have really questionable backgrounds. You like Ray Rice. You look at Ray Rice, man. He was they weren't even gonna cut the guy after he knocked out his girlfriend in an elevator. They weren't even gonna do nothing. They're like, "Oh, couple game suspension. He's good. Let's bring him back. We don't care that you abuse your girlfriend as long as you can play football." And then the video got released, and everyone saw what the team was doing and the commissioner was doing, and then they all backtracked and said, "Oh, we're gonna ban him indefinitely from the NFL." So, like, if a guy can play, and even if there's dirt on him, as long as it's not public, like, they're gonna they're gonna get him in there. So that's where my head's at with the whole Kaepernick thing. People always forget he had a huge fall off and think that he was some like upper echelon quarterback when he was really just he was kinda like Cam Newton in a sense, like, Cam Newton was really good for a few years, and then that was it. That was all he had. I mean, he had one of the easily one of the best years ever for a quarterback, Cam Newton, 35 touchdowns, 10 picks, he had, like, double-digit rushing touchdowns. He was unstoppable. You watched him that year, they got the 15 wins, I think, make it to the Super Bowl, and then
And
just
then
get
he didn't fall on the
Yeah,
effing fumble.
yeah, and then he gets lit up by Von Miller all game, but,
Well,
um
I mean, you might as well fall on the football. I mean, shit, I don't know if you've seen the light of day after that on a football uniform.
yeah,
Did he?
for real, and it's like but yeah,
Come
after
on,
that, he had a
man.
shoulder injury, never was the same, career just fell apart after that, so
Johnny
I
Football too.
yeah,
Johnny Football too. There's these like these 5-second famous players
well,
that
his
had
was in college.
everything.
His
Even
wasn't even
even
in the
Tim
NFL,
Tebow.
like
Tim Tebow too.
yeah.
Yeah, Johnny Football. Yeah, he
Yeah, he
did.
didn't
But I
even,
mean, he
like,
had a
really
short stint with the Browns, but he went to shit from
he had,
there.
like,
But
a small glimmer there, but, you could argue they shoulda just kept Mayfield, and that's been the Browns' downfall ever since, like, they finally got a good quarterback in Baker Mayfield, and they kick him to the curb. It's like, that's the
yeah, it's
most
like, what are you
Browns thing
doing?
ever.
I mean, they've had a bad run with quarterbacks,
And then they
but I
hand
mean, it's
Deshaun
definitely not
Watson
Deshaun Watson.
300,000,000, like,
This guy, now
guaranteed.
you want to talk about a jokester is Deshaun Watson. He's gonna be the next. He's the next Johnny Football or
Oh my
Kaepernick.
gosh. And you make hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And you could get any woman and you're a professional athlete, and he goes and does what he did to all those women. It's just mind-boggling. Like, you don't need to go to a massage parlor to get women when you're an NFL athlete and, you're athletic, everything's going right. Like, he did a lot for his community in Houston back when he lived there. Like, it seemed like he was a community guy. And then all that comes out, legacy tarnished, career over. Like, sure, he's gonna be a millionaire forever now unless he's done with his money, but his legacy and, like, all the women that he impacted. Because when, like, 20 women come out and say the same thing, they're not all lying, man. Like, there's no way that every one of those I mean, maybe there's a couple in there that were going for the cash grab, right? But the evidence was so stacked against him, and they still paid him $300,000,000 after all that came out. Just mind-blowing what an organization would do that.
And then for him to flop on the field like
Yeah, and then
he
he
has,
sucked on top of it all, so
that's the
it, like, didn't even
icing
work
on the
out.
shit cake.
Oh, yeah,
Come
terrible.
on, man.
That's like Lions of old where they take 3 receivers in a row in the first round who all suck, and then they have no offensive line, no quarterback, can't even get him the football anyway. That's like yeah, Lions and Browns have been playing that same game forever, which finally the Lions break out of, um, but yeah, that's tough, man.
The
It's tough
Browns
to
might
be
come to their senses someday. Maybe, maybe not.
they'll get
Yep.
a 45-year-old Baker Mayfield back and play for 'em.
Or get yeah, they might need Kaepernick over there. I mean, he'd fit in like a glove at the Browns. You know what I mean? Just with all the guys that they've been getting and that have gone
Oh,
through
man.
that
Yeah,
through
give him
that
100,000,000 guaranteed. What do you got to lose? It's your money. I mean, oh man.
Yeah. Well, I think we've worn ourselves out tonight, Robert. Left a lot of stones unturned, but I think that we're going to revisit those here in the next show. So we'll leave it at that. Anything you want to say, anything you want to leave the people with before we sign off tonight?
Nothing, man. I mean, the NFL is coming soon. Like, if you're looking at going to a game, I suggest buying tickets now because they're getting expensive.
Are they really?
But yeah, they're like the cheapest ones I could find are like $450 for like nosebleeds for the Lions. So,
Damn.
and that's part of being successful. But yeah, I'd say if you're trying to go to a game, get some tickets now. And the preseason's coming up quick, so yeah, start thinking about who you're gonna be drafted in your fantasy league. Um, if you can't make it to a game, the preseason's always a good option. A lot cheaper tickets, still get the fun experience, Ford Field and whatever. So, um, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. But yeah,
Absolutely. Wise words. Thanks, Robert. Make sure to check us out on social media, guys. Check us out on our website, ginsportsnetwork.com, on IG at Gin Sports Network, and find me on Twitter at Gin Commish. Holler at me on there and start some controversy, start some fights with me and Robert for us to dice up here on Double Coverage. But for now, we'll see you guys here next time. I'm John Jay II alongside Robert Rachow with Double Coverage, the premier NFL podcast of the Gin Sports Network. Thank you so much for tuning in and have a great night.